Hey YouTube, today we're going to be talking about Boolean variables and types. We're going to learn what they are, how we can use them in our code, and what kinds of operations we can do with them. Let's hop into it. Boolean variables and Boolean values are core to computing. It comes all the way from the invention of computers with binary, right? Zeros or ones. Because Booleans are true or false. They can only have values that are true or false, or yes or no, or 0 or 1. And they're very simple, but they're also very powerful. You can do a lot of things with Boolean variables, including taking part in complex control flows, so identifying which branches of code should run based on certain conditions, or you can control loops with them. You can also do a lot of other stuff, but today we're going to focus on a couple basic examples. Starting off though, let's use IDLE, which is the IDE that we looked at in the first video, and we're going to create a new file. This new file, we're going to save it. I'm going to save it in YouTube, and I'm going to save it as boolean.py. You can name it whatever you'd like, and you can save it where you'd like. Just put it somewhere where you'll be able to find it. And so we're going to start by saying Boolean variable is equal to true. And so what we do here is we create a new variable and we name it Boolean var, so for a Boolean variable. We assign it with one equals sign the value true. And because Python is not a statically typed language, you don't need to declare what the variable types are. You can create variables, give them values, and Python will figure out what the values or what the variable types are by itself. And so we've created a Boolean variable. We can also create another Boolean variable, and it can be the result of an expression. So we can say that elapsed or out of time is equal to current time is greater than 10. And if we say current time is equal to 11, then out of time will be equal to the result of this expression. And this expression is that current time is greater than 10. And since current time is 11, then this will be true. And so you can see how we can establish facts about the state of our environment, right? Current time is 11, and we have a limit of 10. And then we can use Boolean expressions to create Boolean values that represent certain things, like whether we're out of time. So if we actually go to print out of time, we're going to save this, and I'm going to use F5 to run this file, and we see true. So we can see that we're indeed out of time. And now that we know how to create Boolean variables, we can also look at operations between them. So let's look at defining more Boolean variables. So we can say that, actually first let's define another integer variable. So let's say score is equal to 55. We can define a Boolean variable that is score limit reached is equal to score greater than 50. Now, if someone's playing a game and there's a score limit and they've reached that score limit, there's also a time limit and they're out of time, you want to be able to use both those variables to determine if they've won the game. So what you can say is if score limit reached and out of time, then we want to print congratulations, you won the game. And so what this does is it says, okay, we have a Boolean variable that's going to represent whether they scored more than 50 points. We have another Boolean variable that's going to represent whether the time is greater than the time limit. And so here, in the case where both the game is over in time and their score is greater than the threshold, we say that they've won. We can also say elif. So if this is not true, we can say elif out of time and not score limit reached. We can say print, sorry, you are out of time. Right, so here we introduce another operation. So and is pretty clear and so is not, and together I think this, honestly, it reads quite similar to English. Python is nice that way, but what's really happening here is we have a Boolean variable which contains a Boolean value, and we have this Boolean variable which also contains a Boolean value. So when Python reads this, it will evaluate this as true, because that's the value contained, and this as true, because that's the value contained. And it'll apply the not here. So we see false, because not true is false. And so we have true and false. True and false is false. So this will not print. And we already knew that because this will print. However, if we say the score is 45, then it certainly will. So let's first set it at 55 and make sure it prints exactly what we think. Congratulations, you won the game. But if we set it at 45, now if we run it again with F5, sorry, you're out of time. And so you can see here we used Boolean variables to store Boolean values, and then we did a Boolean operation to determine what message we should print to the user. Another common way that you can use Boolean variables is controlling loops. So when you're doing a loop, it doesn't look great when you say while true and then use break statements. This is common, but it's not as nice as having a variable that you can set to control when you end the loop. So if I am going to do a loop that I want to run for, say, 5 seconds, then I can create a variable called running. Running is equal to true. And then my while loop will be while running. I could say while running is true, but you can just say while Boolean variable, and if the variable is true, it'll continue to run. And so say while running, we are going to print running at time, and we're actually going to use string formatting. So I'm going to put an F in front of the string, which indicates that I'm going to add in a variable. And we're going to say time.time. And this is going to print the current time, and it's the number of seconds since a certain date a long time ago. And we also need to, since I'm using the time module, we need to, at the top of our file, import time. So now we see while running, print running at time, time.time. And this will run forever. So what we want to do is we want to keep track of the start time is equal to time.time. And we want to say current time is equal to time.time. And we know we're running at this time, but now let's see if we should stop. So if current time minus start is greater than 5, so more than 5 seconds have elapsed, then we are going to set running is equal to false. And we're going to say, we're actually going to say the loop is over at the end. So we're going to say print completed at time, and I'm going to use string formatting again. I'm going to say time.time with the curly braces to insert the value, and the F in front of the string to indicate that we want to insert variables. And so to recap, we get the start time, we set a Boolean value, or Boolean variable running is equal to true. We say while running, which starts off as true. We check the current time, we print out the current time, And then if more than 5 seconds has elapsed, we modify the Boolean variable, which was given to the while loop, to stop the loop. And so if we save this, we expect that one of these messages is going to be printed. And then we're going to see several print statements for about 5 seconds, and then a completion message. So let's see if we did that correctly. Running at time, so you can see it's doing a lot of print statements, because it can execute the code really, really fast, but it is now completed at this time. I'm going to add one more thing, which is time.sleep1. So this will sleep for each iteration of the loop, and so if we run it again, we won't get thousands of print statements. We'll get just a couple print statements until 5 seconds have passed, and then we see the completion message. So today we looked at Boolean variables and values, how to define them, how to do some basic operations and if statements based on them, and how to use them to control loops. I hope this is helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.